that moment when David screamed, "I do not skate through life, I walk through life in really nice shoes"? Yeah, that line still lives rent-free in our heads. From Moira's dramatic wigs to Alexis's iconic "You, David," Schitt's Creek gave us characters so quirky, so real, that saying goodbye felt personal. But where are they now? Who swapped sitcoms for sci-fi? Who went from a small-town motel to Hollywood red carpets? And who surprised everyone with a completely new career path? Well, buckle up, because we're about to take a heartwarming and hilarious stroll down memory lane with the cast of Schitt's Creek, then and now. Eugene Levy as Johnny Rose. Before he became the uptight yet lovable motel owner in Schitt's Creek, Eugene Levy was already a legend in comedy circles. His journey kicked off back in the early 70s, making waves in the Canadian theater scene with Godspell in 1972. But it was his run on the iconic sketch show SCTV from 1976 to 1984 that put him on the comedy map, not just as a performer, but as a brilliant writer, too. Through the late 90s and early 2000s, Levy charmed global audiences in the American Pie movies as the adorably awkward dad. And if you're into mockumentaries, you'll definitely remember him in Best in Show in 2000, A Mighty Wind in 2003, and For Your Consideration in 2006, collabs with his longtime creative partner, Christopher Guest. But it was Schitt's Creek, co-created with his son, Dan Levy, that gave Eugene a whole new wave of fame. As Johnny Rose, he brought heart and subtle hilarity to every scene. That role didn't just earn him new fans, it reminded the world how timeless his talent really is. Now at 78, Eugene's still at it, hosting The Reluctant Traveler on Apple TV. From slapstick to soul, his career has truly stood the test of time. Catherine O'Hara as Moira Rose. Before she became everyone's favorite over-the-top fashion icon in Schitt's Creek, Catherine O'Hara was already a comedy legend in the making. Her journey began back in 1976 when she stepped into the spotlight with the sketch comedy hit Second City Television, a run that not only showcased her comedic genius but also earned her a Primetime Emmy Award. By the late 80s, her quirky charm had already left a mark on pop culture. Remember her hilarious turns in Beetlejuice in 1988 and Home Alone in 1990? She reprised the role of Kevin's panicked mom in Home Alone 2 Lost in New York 2 years later, cementing her status as a fan favorite. Through the years, she formed a dynamic duo with Christopher Guest, appearing in mockumentary classics like Waiting for Guffman in 1996, Best in Show in 2000, and A Mighty Wind in 2003. And her voice? Instantly recognizable. She brought characters to life in animated gems like The Nightmare Before Christmas in 1993, Over the Hedge in 2006, and Pixar's Elemental in 2023. Even in her later chapters, O'Hara didn't slow down. In 2010, she earned another Emmy nod for portraying Temple Grandin's aunt in the HBO biopic. She had a memorable run on 6 Feet Under between 2003 and 2005, dabbled in villainy in Netflix's A Series of Unfortunate Events from 2017 to 2018, and most recently, she wowed audiences in Apple TV Plus's The Studio and HBO's gripping The Last of Us, both premiering in 2025. Dan Levy as David Rose. Back in 2006, Dan Levy was making waves as a host on MTV Canada. He dipped his toes into acting with smaller roles, like the suspenseful Cyberstalker in 2012 and the Tina Fey-led Admission in 2013. But everything changed in 2015 when he co-created Schitt's Creek alongside his father, Eugene Levy. That move? Career-defining. As David, Dan gave us a masterclass in deadpan wit, emotional depth, and unforgettable fashion choices. Who could forget the scene where David opens up about his pansexuality using a simple wine metaphor? Or his iconic meltdown over missing moisturizer? "I liked the wine, not the label." It was sharp, funny, and surprisingly heartfelt. But Dan didn't stop there. Post-Schitts, he hosted and produced The Big Bunch in 2022, a cooking show with a side of inspiration. In 2023, he showed up in HBO's edgy drama The Idol and Netflix's hit Sex Education, proving he's not afraid to switch things up. And in 2024, he brought his charm to Curb Your Enthusiasm. Now 41, with 5.1 million Instagram followers and a thriving career that keeps evolving, Dan's not just David Rose, he's a creative powerhouse, with a flair for both drama and comedy. Annie Murphy as Alexis Rose. Let's be real, nobody walks into a room with the kind of flouncy hair and chaotic charm that Annie Murphy brought to Alexis Rose. With her signature, "Ew, David," and a backstory wilder than a soap opera fever dream, she didn't just play Alexis, she became her. But Annie's path to that iconic role wasn't exactly paved in glitter and tiaras. She made her screen debut in the 2007 crime thriller Lethal Obsession, followed by a string of guest appearances in series like The Beautiful Life, TBL Blue Mountain State, and Beauty and the Beast. She was hustling hard, often in blink-and-you-miss-it roles, until 2013 rolled around, and bam, Schitt's Creek changed everything. Annie didn't just coast on the coattails of a well-written show. She owned Alexis with layers. Underneath the spoiled socialite exterior was a vulnerable, loyal, and surprisingly wise soul. Her character arc is arguably one of the richest in the series. From ditzy diva to an independent woman launching her own PR business, Alexis bloomed before our eyes, and Annie gave her heart and humor to every beat of that journey. Post Schitt's Creek, Annie has kept the momentum going. She led the AMC dark comedy Kevin Can F Himself, showed off her twisted range in Netflix's Russian Doll and Black Mirror, and even dabbled in ad campaigns with Hudson Bay and Sparkling Ice as their chief flavor officer. Now 38, she continues to mix quirky charm with emotional depth, proving there's a whole lot more to Annie Murphy than "love that journey for me." Emily Hampshire as Stevie Budd. Remember Stevie's deadpan sarcasm and that unforgettable scene where she sings "Maybe This Time" with raw emotion and cabaret rehearsal? Yeah, goosebumps. Emily Hampshire was already a seasoned performer before Schitt's Creek made her a fan favorite. She began her acting journey back in 1996, building a solid resume in Canadian television with roles in This Space for Rent, Carl Squared, and Northern Town. In 1999, she played Margaret in The Life Before This, which premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival. A few years later, she shared the screen with Kevin Zegers in the 2006 rom-com It's a Boy-Girl Thing as the stylish Chanel. By 2009, she took on the role of Alexandra in The Trotsky, followed by the indie thriller Good Neighbors in 2010. In 2012, she appeared in David Cronenberg's Cosmopolis and the zombie flick The Returned. Her career kept climbing. She wowed audiences in the sci-fi hit 12 Monkeys starting in 2014, and later joined the star-studded cast of The Death and Life of John F. Donovan in 2015. In 2021, fans spotted her in the music video for the Tragically Hip's Not Necessary. And lately, she's been leading horror drama Chapelwaite and starring in Amazon's thriller series The Rig since 2023. Now 43 years old, Emily continues to bring that same edgy charm to every project she touches. And with over 796,000 followers on Instagram, she's clearly still got the crowd's attention. Jennifer Robertson as Jocelyn Schitt. Remember Jocelyn's iconic bangs, her hilarious PTA power moves, and that unforgettable talent show scene where she belted out "Don't Cry Out Loud"? Yep, that was Jennifer Robertson at her finest, channeling small-town charm with big comedic flair. Before Schitt's Creek made her a fan favorite, Jennifer had already carved a name for herself in Canadian comedy. Back in the early 2000s, she was cracking up viewers on This Hour Has 22 Minutes and Comedy Inc. She also sprinkled a little Disney magic into her career with Twitches in 2005, and later took over teen TV on Wingin' It from 2010 to 2012. More recently, she's been winning over an entirely new fan base as Georgia's quirky neighbor in Ginny and Georgia. The Netflix hit skyrocketed in 2023, clocking nearly 1 billion hours streamed. Yes, billion with a B. And in 2024, she stepped into a new creative role, hosting the Great Canadian Pottery Throwdown, adding a splash of clay and creativity to her resume. Jennifer is now in her fabulous 50s and just as hilarious as ever. With over 316,000 fans following her on Instagram, she proves that whether it's comedy, drama, or throwing clay, she's got the magic touch. Chris Elliott as Roland Schitt. With his wild hair, half-tucked shirts, and those hilariously awkward one-liners, Chris Elliott made Roland Schitt one of the most absurdly lovable characters on Schitt's Creek. Who could forget the scene where he insists on showing Johnny the town's questionable welcome sign, with all the misplaced pride in the world? Classic Roland. But Elliott's comedic chops go way back. Long before Schitt's Creek, he was cracking up audiences as a writer and performer on Late Night with David Letterman in the 80s. Then came Get a Life in the early 90s, a cult classic he created and starred in. He also led the bizarre comedy Cabin Boy in 1994, a film that's equal parts weird and wonderful. Over the years, Chris popped up in beloved shows like Everybody Loves Raymond and How I Met Your Mother, and starred as a rogue federal agent in Eagleheart on Adult Swim. He's also had memorable film roles in Groundhog Day, There's Something About Mary, Snow Day, and The Rewrite. In 2022, he played a role in Maggie, proving he's still got it. Now 65, Chris may have slowed down a bit, but his talent for offbeat comedy and lovable oddballs hasn't aged a day. Noah Reid as Patrick Brewer. Soft-spoken, endearingly awkward, and with a voice that could melt even David Rose's icy sarcasm, Patrick Brewer quickly became one of Schitt's Creek's most beloved characters. Noah's journey began in the late 90s when he lent his voice to the gentle, shell-wearing turtle in Franklin, voicing the title character from 1997 to 2002. While still in high school at the Etobicoke School of the Arts, he snagged a role on Strange Days at Blake Holsey High, balancing teen drama with sci-fi oddities. In 2005, he took on the emotionally charged role of Daryl Fox in Terry, dramatizing the life and legacy of Canadian hero Terry Fox. He made his feature film debut in Score, a hockey musical, which opened at the 2010 Toronto International Film Festival. From there, Reid moved fluidly between television and film with appearances in Rookie Blue, Cracked, Kevin from Work, and the indie drama People Hold On, for which he earned a Canadian Screen Award nomination for Best Original Song. Then came 2017, the year he quietly stepped into Schitt's Creek and won us over as Patrick. In 2018, he was promoted to series regular, and his on-screen chemistry with Dan Levy brought rare tenderness and joy in primetime TV. That same year, he also wowed theatergoers with a performance of Hamlet in Toronto. Outside acting, Noah's music career is thriving. He's released multiple albums, including Songs from a Broken Chair in 2016, Gemini in 2020, and Adjustments in 2022. In 2023 and 2024, he launched global tours, playing in major cities across North America and Europe. In 2025, he embraced a new chapter with a stripped-down solo sessions tour. Now, in his late 30s, Noah continues to balance screen and stage with equal grace. With over 63,000 Instagram followers and a growing fan base from both acting and musical pursuits, it's clear that Patrick Brewer was just the beginning of his legacy. Dustin Mulligan as Ted Mullins. Before charming fans in Schitt's Creek from 2015 to 2020, Mulligan had already carved out a solid place in Hollywood. He played Ethan Ward on 90210, the CW reboot of the iconic Beverly Hills 90210, but his face might have already looked familiar. That's because he popped up in a string of thrillers and dramas. In 2006 alone, he starred in Final Destination 3, Slither, and The Butterfly Effect 2. The guy was everywhere. In 2007, he landed roles in The Messengers, In the Land of Women, and Butterfly on a Wheel, showing off his range beyond teen drama. Come 2009, he was dishing out laughs in Extract, a quirky Mike Judge comedy. Later, in 2015, he took on a heartfelt lead role in the indie drama Sequoia, followed by another standout in Me, Him, Her in 2016. A comedy exploring identity with a twist of Mulligan's signature charm. In 2020, he surprised everyone by stepping into heels and glitter on RuPaul's Secret Celebrity Drag Race. Not only did he slay the runway, but he also showed a whole new layer of confidence and humor. Most recently, from 2021 to 2022, he starred in Rutherford Falls, continuing to shine in offbeat roles that blend comedy with emotional depth. Now 40, Dustin Mulligan keeps evolving, always leaving a mark, whether he's breaking hearts in a small-town clinic or sashaying on the drag race stage. Karen Robinson as Ronnie Lee. Remember that iconic town hall scene where Ronnie Lee called out everyone's nonsense with a perfectly timed eye roll and savage one-liner? Yep, that unforgettable moment belongs to the powerhouse that is Karen Robinson. Long before her Schitt's Creek days, Karen had already carved out a rich career on both stage and screen. She brought intensity and depth to roles in films like Owning Mahoney, Lars and the Real Girl, and My Louisiana Sky back in 2001. On the small screen, she's been everywhere, from The Line to Frankie Drake Mysteries and a chilling appearance in Season 1 of The Handmaid's Tale. In 2011, her performance in The Gospel According to the Blues earned her a Gemini Award nomination. And by 2020, she was lighting up series like Star Trek Discovery, Pretty Hard Cases, and Tiny Pretty Things. Fast forward to 2024, and Karen's still stealing scenes, now as Inspector Vivian Holness in Law & Order Toronto Criminal Intent. And though she's stepped into her late 50s, her presence is sharper than ever, commanding every frame with the same wit and poise that made Ronnie Lee unforgettable. That's a wrap on the Schitt's Creek cast, then and now. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more.